Welcome back to World Crisis Radio, continuing with the major article by me. Obama is preparing to strike Iran. Obama is preparing to attack Iran. Tarpley.net, take a look, major study, because it is a turning point. It's not a continuum. It's a break. It's a shift. We're just talking about the fact that the retaliation by the Iranians to an attack by Israel or the United States would be this interdiction of the tanker traffic in Hormuz. And ironically, as Vernochet of the Voltaire Network points out, this is exactly what Wall Street and the City of London, to some extent, would like, because it tremendously increases the demand for dollars. And that's the secret of the Kippur War. That's why the whole thing was done. There never was a shortage of oil. There was plenty of oil, but under the cover of these events back in '73, they were able to bid up the price. So when you look, for example, at Energy and Capital, Christian A. DeHamer, he points out the looming Iran war is not priced in to oil right now. So in the middle of this strategy, the question of an Iraqi government is important. In Iraq, remember, the U.S. is attempting to assemble a front which is Arab and Sunni against the Iranians, who are Persian and Shiite. They've got Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine on their side. They probably have Syria on their side when it comes to it. They may have Sudan, and they have forces that are favorable to them in Yemen and in Somalia. But the line of the Anglo-Americans, for example, Jeffrey Goldberg, writing on the Atlantic website, quote, "The Jews and Arabs have been fighting for 100 years. The Arabs and the Persians have been going at it for 1,000 years." So you get the idea. Eclipse the Arab-Israeli dispute with an apocalyptic war between Persians and Arabs. In order to do this, you've got to get a pliable U.S. puppet of the Sunni type. You've got to get Alawi into the government in Iraq, and they're failing to do this. That's why Biden went there. That's why the U.S. is with Obama has made that call again. Now, who says there's going to be a war? Well, Fidel Castro, in that famous interview, right? I think you could say he came out of semi-retirement. It's the first detailed media interview since his illness began several years ago. He does talk about North Korea, the DPRK, and the risk of war there. I take the Iran one much more seriously. He says tension between the United States and North Korea and Iran could trigger a global nuclear war. Castro warned that an attack on Iran would be catastrophic for America. The worst for America is the resistance they will face there, which they did not face in Iraq. We also have July 11th, former Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mahathir Mohamad, saying that the United States, it's only a matter of time before the war criminals in Israel and the United States launch another war of aggression once Iran has been weakened by sanctions. We've got Senator Chuck Robb and former NATO Deputy Commander Charles Wald issuing a call. It's an editorial in the Washington Post of July 9th saying sanctions will not work, deterrence will not work, we must prepare military strikes on Tehran's nuclear and supporting military facilities. One of the biggest propaganda pieces is the Weekly Standard, the neocon house organ. The cover story this week, essentially, why Israel should attack Iran. The title is actually, Should Israel Bomb Iran? Question mark on the front page, but a few sentences in, you'll see there is no question mark. This is the former CIA agent Royal Mark Gerecht. And the idea here is you better get busy. Interestingly, he takes a swipe at Brzezinski. Quote from Royal Mark Gerecht in the Weekly Standard. The Israelis should get busy and attack, essentially. He says, the Obama administration might fume, but it is hard to imagine the president, given what he has said about the unacceptability of Iranian nukes, scolding Jerusalem for too long. He might personally agree with his one-time counsel, Jimmy Carter's national security advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, that Israel has become a pariah state, but politically this won't fly. So gloating that whereas 3 years ago Brzezinski and his group, the Trilateral Soft Power Nye International Crisis Group, had the upper hand, now the neocons are the coming force around Petraeus. And, of course, the Brzezinski people dragged down by the fecklessness and unpopularity of Obama. Now, interestingly enough, remember in the run-up to the Iraq War, Kenneth Edelman said, "It'll be a cakewalk," words to carve in stone at the State Department. Well, Garect is telling us Iran will be a cakewalk. Quote, "American fear of Iranian capabilities in Iraq and Afghanistan has been exaggerated. We'll soon be out of Iraq, and don't worry, even if the Iranians tried their utmost, they could give us only a small headache compared with the migraine we've already got, courtesy of the Pakistanis," and so forth. The Israelis know, says Garek, that the U.S. Navy has no fear of Tehran closing the Straits of Hormuz. If Khamenei has a death wish, he'll let the Revolutionary Guards mine Hormuz. This is the only thing that could get Obama to strike Iran militarily. Khamenei would soon have no Navy, no Air Force, no Army. And the Israelis are praying that Khamenei will retaliate, converges with the financial side of the analysis. So the question of the deterrence, right, mutually assured destruction, won't work because they're crazy. We also have Michael Barone. Barone essentially says we better take this seriously because there are not just the usual hawks, cowboys, Bushmen, and neocons who are for this, but there's other opinion. And he points to another article that's thoroughly accounted for in this paper, which is Joe Klein in Time magazine. Joe Klein in Time magazine essentially says, don't look now, but the attack is on the table. It's been off the table, now it's back on. This is Time magazine. It's the issue dated 26th of July, still on sale. An attack on Iran, back on the table, by Joe Klein. Quote, intelligence sources say that the U.S. Army Central Command, and that was Petraeus until a couple of weeks ago, the U.S. Army Central Command, which is in charge of organizing military operations in the Middle East, has made some real progress in planning targeted airstrikes, aided in part by the vastly improved human intelligence operations in the region. An Israeli military source tells Joe Klein there really was not a military option a year ago, but now there is a real option. Israel, an integral part of the planning. So don't believe breakaway ally. If Israel attacks first, this is part of a cynical scenario. There is resistance in the U.S. military, naturally. Who wants to go into that meat grinder? The Iraqi meat grinder, bad. The Iranian meat grinder, much, much worse. Gates had said a little while ago that a targeted attack even would be disastrous on a number of levels, but now the worm is turning. So we've also got Arnaud de Boschgrave, the Count, who used to be UPI. He used to be Crossfire back many years ago. Veteran columnist Arnaud de Boschgrave, this is Newsbacks now, says that one of the main things is that the Saudis and the UAE are demanding it. We'll get to that in a minute.